right, good afternoon, everyone. This is a really big crowd pulling in this afternoon. I was really surprised to see the parking lots full, so I'm so happy that so many folks are interested in today's conversation. Welcome to today's Clean Lakes 101 Science Cafe. I'm Dana Fulton, meteorologist and anchor at WKOW, and our station is proud to be the media partner for these events. It's been a really, really fun journey with Clean Lakes Alliance, and I hope that partnership continues for quite a long time. I'd like to welcome everyone to the east side. It is warm in here, so it's nice. At least you're not outside right now. Fall is officially here, and I hope that everyone did enjoy some of those warmer days that we've had over the last few weeks, but this weekend even pretty nice outside. As we transition now into the end of November, we're going to start a conversation about National Native American Heritage Month. This area has long been known as Teejop, meaning four lakes, by its earliest inhabitants. Today, titled Teejop Trails and Tales, our talk is going to actually honor those indigenous heritage, the indigenous heritage of the Teejop region, people who have called it home since time really started in this area. Our presenter will share tales and remembrances that invoke an enduring respect for Teejop land and water. We will have time for a Q&A session at the end, as always, so please, we'll try to get to as many questions as possible. I do ask that you hold your questions until the end, and we'll bounce around the mic so we can all participate in that. Before we do get started, I encourage everyone to grab a cookie in the back. They are delicious. If you haven't had the chance to do so yet, this is your opportunity to do. They are purchased from Feed Bakery. That's a local program that serves unemployed residents of Dane County, particularly North Siders, by providing valuable baking training and job placement services. So very neat organization, and the cookies are delicious. I'd like to thank our Clean Lakes 101 sponsors, presenting sponsor, National Guardian Life Insurance Company, hosting sponsor, the East Side Club, supporting sponsor, Johnson Financial Group, Alliant Energy, and Perkins Coie, production partners, the UW Nelson Institute for Environmental Studies and the UW Extension, and your media partner, WKOW. On the value of removing leaves from the streets to help improve our lakes. Every fall, when rain hits the fallen leaves in the streets, it washes phosphorus-rich water directly into our lakes, causing future algal blooms. So it all starts right here, right now. Clearing leaves off our streets and storm drains is one of the most impactful actions that you can have to help our lakes. You can rake them onto the curb for removal or mulch or even compost the leaves. That's my favorite. Just getting those leaves into your backyard. It also helps with pollinators or wildlife. You really like seeing lightning bugs coming through next summer. Having those leaves in your backyard will help provide that perfect habitat for the lightning bugs. Lastly, coming up on Tuesday, December 2nd, it is Giving Tuesday, an annual day to give back to causes that matter most to us. As the year winds down, now is a great time to make your year-end contribution to protect the lakes that we all love so much. Your past support has helped fuel programs and partnerships that continue to focus on improving water quality, lake access, and community engagement. And we are so grateful for supporters like you in this room today. Back to today's talk and why we are here. We want to share again values, kinship, teaching, and relationships that help frame a Ho-Chunk worldview by Ho-Chunk Elder Janice Rice. Janice is a UW academic librarian who holds an advanced degree in Indian librarianship from UW-Madison. As a clan member for the Ho-Chunk Nation Social Services, she provides guidance for young Ho-Chunk women. And in 2023, she was elected president of the first tribal library for the Ho-Chunk Nation and continues to be a voice for the nation's history, art, culture, and Teejop's land and waters. Before we bring Janice up, I will ask if you wouldn't mind making sure that your phones are on silent. We definitely want to make sure that we respect our conversation today because I do think it's going to be a very interesting presentation. So here to share more about Ho-Chunk teachings, please join me in welcoming Janice Rice.
Ho-Chunk Elder Janice Rice. You can see that I didn't practice before we got up there.
So you can pull it out too, I think.
I want to say thank you to everyone who organized this today and made it possible for me to be here and join you. And I know they had mentioned conversation, and most of my have been more like a lecture, and this was one topic that felt more like a conversation than a lecture. So I'm excited about sharing it because it's not anything that I've really ever covered all that much before. So I'm going to focus more on the lakes and kinship relationships and trails and tales and things that I know about the Teejop area. I've been living here since 1975, and off and on I was only gone about a year and a half, but I've been spending most of my time since then getting really familiar with the four lakes, which we call Teejop. I think the thing that I look back on all my time here in Teejop area is the Indian mounds. So I'm showing you a map of the four lakes, and you can only see part of the lake that I live on. The top one is Mendota, Monona, Wabisa, and then the one that you can barely see at the bottom, that's where I live, Lake Kiganza. And it's just been an enjoyable life being here in Madison and learning about the villages that used to be here, the Indian mounds, and then also the campsites, some of the things that were temporary and others where people lived most of the time. And I don't know if you can see as well on this map, but it shows you where the mound groups are, and almost every lake has mounds all around it. And then the campsites are usually right near the mounds. And the early Winnebago villages are also listed. So if you ever have a chance to go to Wisconsin Historical Society, the manuscripts and archives section has really excellent maps that point out all the locations of these lakes, mounds, and campsites and villages. As I said, I'd like to focus a little bit more on relationships with land and water. And this is a view of Lake Mendota. And I was really fortunate during all my career as an academic librarian to have this view of Lake Mendota. All I did was look out my window and there it was. And so I got to spend a lot of time here as a graduate student and then as an academic librarian. And so this is one of my favorite spots, probably in the Four Lakes area. It's so beautiful and it has access to so many things that are important to us. So if you can look straight across the lake where the big clouds are, just to the right of that is where the Yahara River pours in, and then we also have Mendota Mental Health Institute. This is a map that shows the various mounds that are out there. And I bring this one up because this is the place that has the largest Indian mound that's still visible. And if you'll notice, maybe I could just get a show of hands. How many of you have been to Mendota Mental Health Institute where the mounds are? Very good. I've seen it from a distance. I haven't stepped out there and walked the walk yet. But I love the area. And when I drive by there, it feels like I'm in a whole different world because I've grown up on the south side of Lake Mendota and it's really different on the other side of Lake Mendota. So it's a beautiful spot. In the upper left-hand corner, it says village area. That's where some of the Ho-Chunk people lived way back before this area was settled. Then closer to the lake shoreline was another village area. And then as you look farther onto the right and all the way to the lower right, there were villages there. And so what I usually tell people, especially young children in school, they ask, well, where did the Indians live? And so one of the things that I like to point out are the springs. Whenever you have a life to live and you need to survive, water is really important. So it's important that the villages would be near the water and the springs where the natural water springs right up and it feeds the people and takes care of the community. So there are villages along the shoreline, but I'm sure somewhere along the way there is a spring. And it's amazing to just think about how it was back then and to be able to just retrieve your own water, have everything close by and have everything be flourishing in the area. And I don't see the Yahara River here, but that feeds into this part of the village area and the lake. I felt that it would be important today to share with you some of the leaders that used to be here in the old days, because many of you only hear maybe the name mentioned of Black Hawk, who was Sac-and-Fox. But many of you probably don't know the names of our leaders. And I forgot to mention when I introduced myself that I'm Bear Clan. My name is Hinuki which is a Bear Clan name. It means changing seasons woman. So one of the things in honor of my Bear Clan heritage, I have posted a picture. The first one on the left is Monk Skaga, White Chest. And he was a leader in this region. In fact, he covered a lot of territory, Teejop area, going down toward Evansville and down toward the Wisconsin and Illinois state line. So that was Monk Skaga, the bear member, is or soldier. And he was the leader way back when the Ho-Chunks were moving around from Lake Winnebago area coming down here. So he covered a wide territory, and you'll notice that in those days, there were no cameras. And so a lot of the photos of our elder Ho-Chunk people, ancient, were drawings rather than photos. And so that's Manape, which means soldier, and he was also Bear Clan. And in our society, Manape or soldier means the protector. So a lot of the Bear Clan relatives of today still carry on the tradition of being the police force of the tribe or the protectors. And some of you may go to the powwows that are in the region here, or if you ever go to our northern Wisconsin powwows, a lot of the people that are standing guard and watching over and protecting the site of the area where the gathering is are usually Bear Clan. So if there's a little problem that pops up, they just say, Bear Clan, we need you right now. So anybody who's Bear Clan shows up. And so that's one of their roles, being security and protectors and warriors of our Ho-Chunk people. And on the right is Whirling Thunder. He was most famously known for being around Lake Koshkonong. And he came along that way, coming along the Yahara, that direction, coming from the east, and then into Teejop area. So Whirling Thunder was more of a peacemaker. So usually it was the elder statesmen that were more of the peacemakers of our people. And so Whirling Thunder was a peacemaker and a great leader. He's also from the Thunder Clan. And I won't say what all our clans are, but I can only talk about the clans that I know of that I've been gifted with information. So I know things about the Bear Clan and then the Thunder Clan because my grandmothers on both sides, my maternal grandmother and my paternal grandmother were both Thunder Clan. And then my grandfather and my father on the paternal side of the family tree, they were Bear Clan. One of the things we like to do is talk about the ways that we relate to people and what is around us. So the 4 R's, we take care to show respect. And then we focus on relationships, reciprocity, and responsibility. So when you look at the clans that we have, each one of them has a role to play, and respectful to one another, and relationships and kinship are really important. And reciprocity is not only reciprocity between human beings to one another, but also reciprocity with the land and the water. So whatever relationship that you might have, don't think of it as just you and the people, but you and what's around you. So that's important to us, that we have a path to walk and the trails that we walk are also building relationships with the land and the people in the water and the wildlife that's around us. Everything is abundant in the Teejop area, so we're really grateful to have lived here and to still live here today and be able to enjoy the blessings that are around us. The things that I think stand out to me as I walk along the 4 lakes of Teejop are the animals and the plants and the plant life. So I have some photos of the things that seem most valuable to me. And since I retired, one of the things I do is a walk. And I rise really early in the morning and I'm out walking by the lakes. And it's amazing. I try to be as quiet as I can and come to nature, but I never thought of it that way. I just do what I do. And it feels so good to be out there. Sometimes if you're rushing and full of energy or maybe exhausted, just to go out near the water and the land really is refreshing, and it gets you centered again and makes you realize why you're here, what you're all about, and what's going to happen next. And sometimes there's a message there. If you sit for a while, you'll receive a message, whether it's from the wind, the water, a bird, their song, a deer that comes walking up to you. And I could not believe it. You know, the first few days that I was walking, I walked slowly and the deer would come and they approach me, and it's really interesting that they can, it's almost like they're communicating and they have a message. So I like to stop and listen and be respectful to them because they're part of my family too. On my maternal side of the family, my mother's mother, or actually my grandmother, I guess you would call her, she was from the Deer Clan. So that was my great grandmother who was Deer Clan, and then my grandmother was Thunder Clan. And it just brings a lot of memories to me when I look at the deer, because sometimes when I think about the deer, I think about my great grandmother. So maybe a message she might be sending me, something she didn't get to say because I wasn't born yet, but that message that I would receive from her. So there's messages like that out there. The far right photograph on the top is Lake Wabisa. There's different names that we have for the lakes, but I won't tell you the lakes now because sometimes they're really hard to pronounce. But Lake Wabisa, the translation means Lake of the Rushes or the bulrushes. And so that's a photo of them right there. So as you approach from the south side of the lake, if you're coming from Mud Lake or from Lake Monona and approaching Wabisa, you'll see a scene like this. And today, many of our and are gathering the bulrushes and creating rugs and baskets and doing a lot of looting. So not only can you use the water and the vegetation there for food, you can use it for art and for utility with baskets and rugs and all kinds of things. One's out there to stop and listen and what's in. And the berries on the left, these berries really remind me of my childhood and growing up. One of the first things that I did, my grandmother would walk along the trail, just like the trail that you see on the upper left. She would walk with my little sister and me and hold our hands and carry us and walk with us. So the trail reminds me of that, and then the berries. We used to be up in Door County where there are cherries, and the older children and the adults would be out picking cherries, and my grandmother would walk with us. Probably maybe when I would say they went out harvesting and picking berries probably around 5 or 5:30 in the morning. But I would wake up closer to 7:30 or 8, and my grandmother would walk with us little children, and she would take turns carrying us on her back. She'd put me on her back, then she'd hold the hand of my sister and walk along those trails. And then she would tell us about the animals, the wildlife, all of the plant life and what they need, and how to treat them, to be respectful and not be disruptive. So I learned a lot from my grandmother. One of the things that I think is really important, and I even have seen dissertations that are about the corn that saved the people in this region. And there's a doctoral dissertation, and I don't remember the woman's name, but she talked about Black Hawk and the cornfields of northern Illinois and southern Wisconsin. So when people are being removed, they know where their land is, where their gardens are, and they get pushed out of here, but they know that where their life is. And these corn, ears of corn represent that value of the corn to our people. So some, you may talk to some of the Ojibwe people, and wild rice is more important to them in their culture, and it was important to us as well. So even Lake Wabisa, there used to be wild rice there, and our 4 lakes, and then the north shore of Lake Noah as well, along Yahara. Anyway, you see the tall rushes and reeds, that's where the wild rice used to grow. But it was corn that could survive the easiest, and so that all along in this fertile area of the county, you'll see cornfields yet today. And some of them are just the revival of some of the old cornfields that Ho-Chunk people had. So food is important to us, and food is medicine. If you look to the right, upper right hand section, there's milkweed. Those a milkweed bud as it's just coming out in the spring. And for us, this is a delicacy. And so you have to get to it early enough in order to harvest it and pick it. And then we save it for winter and fall. So I know when I go home, sometime there's going to be, our term for the milkweed is mahich. And so we have that as a delicacy and a meal. So when we have Thanksgiving, you have the corn, you have all the other food, wild rice, and then we'll also have mahich. The lower picture shows the lily pads, and there's, if you're walking around the 4 lakes area, there's a 5th lake, and it's not fed by Yahara like the big 4 lakes. Lake Wingra is a different lake that feeds into Lake Monona, and so I'm got a photo there of Lake Monona, Lake Wingra. And it's got water lilies, but the water lilies are quite tiny, so you can't see them too well in this photo. But that's another area that's really important because you can gather the roots and gather up the vegetation in that swampy area where there's lowlands, low water. You can gather that, and that can save your life. You can eat the food there if you're hungry. It's similar to potatoes. You can just walk in the water, move your feet around. Pretty soon you feel it, and then you can just reach down and grab them and bake your potato. So these are things that are valuable to us because we walk the trails, we walk the lakes, and we know what's there and what we can use for family and for survival. This slide is labeled kinship, leadership, and nourishment. And I have the campfire up there because that's really what I feel is really the center of our people. Wherever you go, there's a fireplace. Every reservation, any community you go to, the fire is at the center. And so in my homes, I like to have a fireplace. I like to have a place to go outside and just enjoy stories around the fireplace, or make it a place that I can cook a meal. Because that's the way my grandmother was. Whenever I stepped out of the home with her, that's where we were. She would tell stories, and my grandfather would also tell stories, and it's the centering place for us. And you might think that it always would be the men that would tend the fire, but when a village would move to the next, oftentimes it was a young girl and the young boys that went and gathered the kindling for the fire. So that's really important to us to have that centering and then the sharing of responsibilities among people. The lower left-hand photo is of corn. The previous picture, corn has been harvested, gathered, and the corn's been up, it's been prepared, and now it's on the fireplace. And on the far lower right is bread. Different tribes have other ways of, and this is one thing that we have really enjoyed is being able to feed the people, take care of the community. So the fireplace is really important to us because the mother, the grandmother, and children, the young girls take this family. And I mentioned earlier that when I was younger, my grandmother would take us and carry us on her back. This is the way she carried me when I was little, and then she would trade places, take my little sister, pick her up, put me down on the ground, and then we would walk together. So this is one thing that I have vivid memories of, because my grandmother talked so much and taught so much as we were walking. So I hope that you're in your communities, that you're able to connect with your grandchildren too, and able to walk with them and teach them the ways of the world. And I put the word leadership in there, and that's because we do have leaders in our communities. Many of the times during this, when the soldiers and the Indian agents, the fur traders, when they met the communities, they dealt with whoever was in leadership role right then on the spot. And then when the treaties were signed, they had to come down here to Teejop area and meet the people and do a census. So I have here a list of the young women that were the leaders of the villages. And these aren't all of the names of the women, but these are the ones that I could identify from the census. That it was done by John Kinsey. He was the Indian agent at Portage. So when this area was settled, John Kinsey was the Indian agent that came from Chicago and over the Great Lakes area, and eventually became the Indian agent at Portage when the treaties were signed. So it was about to be the time for the Ho-Chunk people to be removed. And so there were many villages all around these lakes. But I chose these women's names just because I wanted to show that there were leaders that were women of the villages in the Teejop area. And Lake Monona had Wakanjawika, and that means Thunder Woman, and she's from the Thunder Clan. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about birth order right now, because on Lake Monona, Hinakega was a village leader, and she doesn't have a clan there because they didn't know what clan she was from. And sometimes when translators came in, the person did not really know what they were asking for. And so she gave Hinakega, and we have birth order names. And maybe right now I'll just take a few minutes to talk with you about birth order before I finish the others. And I'll just use you as an example. If you're the oldest son in your family tree of your parents, stand up. Okay, the oldest one in the family, the birth order, the young boy and man carries it all his life. His name is Kunu. So all of you are Kunu. So if you're ever in a crowd with Ho-Chunk people, you can tell them that you're a Kunu. So be seated. Okay, how about the women? How many of you are the firstborn daughter in your family? Okay, nice crowd. Okay, the firstborn daughter is Hinu. And Hinu has a lot of responsibility, just like Kunu. They're the two leaders, the Kunu and the Hinu. So, so thank you for standing up. All the Hinus. Okay, how about second-born son? Do we have any second son? Okay, good. The second son is called Hina. So if you meet anybody in the crowd, sometimes if you're at a powwow or a circle of Ho-Chunk people, you might hear people saying, oh, go ask Hina, or Hina's here. So anyway, he's the second born son. How about the second born daughter? Okay, all right, so the second born daughter is called Wiha. And thank you so much. I forgot to tell you that I'm Wiha as well, so I'm the second born daughter. Let me try one more. I think I got almost everybody, but is there a third born son? Oh, wow, good. Okay, the third born son is Haga. Hagas are always full of laughter. And then how about third born daughter? Okay, and third born daughter is Haksiga, but we shorten it up and we just say Siga. You know how we are, we always try to shorten things, so Haksiga becomes Siga. So that's another person that in our family that always has a lot of humor too. How about fourth born son? Any fourth? Okay, the fourth born son is Nagi. And that one takes the roll of the tongue, Nagi. And in fact, our former Ho-Chunk Nation president, Wilford Cleveland, he's a Nagi. And he's gonna be here this week for an event on campus, so Nagi is a good man. How about fourth born daughter? Or did we get everyone? Oh, fourth, yay. Okay, fourth born daughter is Hinakega, like up here. So, leader of her village. So anyway, just thought I'd go that far. There's other names, but I'm just gonna go up to the top four. Raise your hand if you're one of the fifth. A fifth in the family. Okay, I guess we got everybody covered. Very good. So kinship really means a lot to us, because when a baby is born, we already know automatic he's Kunu, and he may not get his name until, I think in the good old days, they would give them a name right away, not too long after they were born, when a clan leader would come and they would get their name. But nowadays, they don't always get their Ho-Chunk name right away. And so when they start walking, when they're starting toddling and starting to walk, then they get their name. So until that time, he will be Kunu, or he will be Hena, or she will be Hinu, and she will be Wiha. They may on the birth certificate have their Christian name written down, but to us as Ho-Chunk people, the more meaningful name is our given Ho-Chunk name and our birth order name. So sometimes, if you're in our communities, that is more valuable to us than Janice Rice. I'm Hinuki Jawi and I'm Wiha. So whenever I hear that, I know somebody knows me really well and they're really serious, and whatever they're gonna tell me is gonna be something really good. So, so anyway, Hinuki Jawi or Wiha. So you can call me that anytime you want. And then this Lake Wabisa, Chonake Wiga, she's Bear Clan, or she was Bear Clan. And so those names can pass down from generation to generation. And Chonake Wiga represents the bear. If you see a bear and the sun is shining on it and it's shining on the bear's back, that sparkle on the bear, that's what that's referring to. Chonake Wiga. Her back is sparkly. And then on Lake Wabisa, we have Wahopini Winga. And this one's a really amazing name because it means spirit. And she happened to come from the water spirit clan. So Wahopini Winga means like the water spirit, the spirit of the person. And one thing I'll tell you from history, when Jean Nicolet and all the other French explorers arrived at the Red Phoenix in Green Bay area, when they saw the people and they were coming in the big boats and they had the guns and they started firing, they were amazed when they met them. And so they called the French Canadian people Wahopini, which means spirit. So so probably because of the influence that they had and the relationship that they had, they were able to communicate with the Ho-Chunk people in a really friendly, congenial way, and learned our language, worked with us, did a lot of things with the Ho-Chunk people. And so, and intermarried with Ho-Chunk people. So Wakopini means the spirit. So I think it shows the how much respect that they had for the French people. Then the last one on Lake Kiganza, where I live, Haja Chehiwinga. And she was Bear Clan, and I don't know the full story, but Haja Chehiwinga means they have translated it as she who is difficult to see. And so I'm not sure exactly what that would be, and I would like to speak to a Bear Clan member, but as an elder, my interpretation of it is, so when you're in a wigwam, or what we call chikoroke inside, there's a lot of smoke, and there's the men were very protective of the women and guarded the front door. And then when if someone wanted to see the women, it was a lot to pass through to get to see them. So I think it kind of represents that protection that is around you. So when someone's trying to approach you and see you, it's difficult because you have a lot of layers to go through. So some of you who are fathers have daughters and granddaughters, you want to protect them. And so you have that role, and that's what you do for them. And so her name, I feel like that represents why she's difficult to see, because she's very guarded by her family. And I had to put in something more contemporary, because we keep telling our children our stories, and we walk on the paths with them, but we also go on the dugout canoe journeys as well. So we've had young people from Ho-Chunk Nation gather over near the Yahara River, start maybe by Wanakee, somewhere along the way, put the dugout canoe into Yahara, come down into Mendota, and then weave to Monona through the locks, and then go down to Wabisa, and then come past Mud Lake down to Lake Kiganza. So along the way, when these journeys are happening, the elders are talking to the children. They're telling them stories along the way. They're showing them how to handle the dugout canoe, how to learn what's around you, how to respect what's there. So it's not just the exercise of paddling. It's a lot of storytelling, a lot of sharing, and a lot of learning who you are, what you're about, and what you're made of. And so they help them to do that when they're walking with them, and then also on the canoe journeys that they're doing. So some of the values that we want to teach our children, we do that while we're on these trips with our young people. So I'm just going to share with you the core values, the kinship relationships, and the values that we have that we want to share with our people. Compassion, and that's called nanchoja. And then love, wogichede. And generosity is terushka. And what respect is woishak. And humility, huji ikaradani. And then brave, washoshe, courage, anakiksi. So those are the words that we try to teach our children. And when I look back on all these core values that we teach our children, I think the one that probably is the most difficult for a non-native to notice in our children is humility. Kuji hakikarani. That means you don't stand out in front. Maybe when the teacher calls on people, they're not the ones raising their hand. They respect the teacher and what they've been taught. So they're not trying to jump up and be the star of the show if they're following the core values of the Ho-Chunk people. And so in the boarding schools and in our school districts today, sometimes when a child is quiet, they think they're not smart. They think they don't know what's going on. But because they've been taught to have humility, that's why they're quiet. And it's also a time of listening. One of the values that should be up here is listening. One of the things we teach our children is to be a good listener. And then what I do, even when I first went to college, I wasn't sure who to see, where to go, what to do, and I walked through the room and I looked for the elders in the room. I know they're gonna teach me something. So I always go where I know I'm gonna get the best advice. And, so I think that's how our children are. You might notice that they gravitate in a room when they're uncomfortable or don't know where to go. They'll go to the, somebody older in the room. Unless it's a classmate that they already know, and they're already friends, so they go there. But these are some of the core values that we have as Ho-Chunk people. And generosity is one of them. If you go to any of our powwows or dances in the area, when somebody wins a prize or receives a gift, they take that. It says generosity, Heirushka. It means you take whatever you have, anything that's valuable to you or a gift that you've received, and you give it to, a woman would give it to her brother, or she might give it to her uncle or her dad. A man would get a gift and he would give it to his sister or his mom or his grandmother. So you always respect the relationship and kinship that you have because you receive so much and you want to share it. You have generosity and you give it away. So those are just some examples of what we have. And our young men are brave, washoshe, and courage. Young men and women, courage, hanakishi. So we have to have a lot of courage because today it seems like there's fear in this world, and even our little children, when they leave, they're full of energy, full of life, but sometimes we caution them. And so they have to have courage sometimes to even walk through the classroom door or walk into a building. And so even over the weekend, my grandson, I went to his football banquet, and it seems like people are always reluctant to mix and sit at a table and greet people. And so you have to teach them a lot of these values so that they can be respectful to whoever is with them or around the table. So those are some things that we try to teach our children, and those are the core values that we have. And as I wrap up, I want to say thank you to each of you for being here today, for learning just a little bit of what there is out on our Ho-Chunk trails and tales of Teejop area. Wa'inigyo inafui. And the translation says, I am grateful to all of you, because there is no word for thank you in Ho-Chunk language. We just say, wa'inigyo inafui. I am grateful to all of you. So there's no shortcut in this one. It's wa'inigyo inafui. Thank you very much.
Janice, thank you. We have about 15 minutes still for a Q&A. There's the mic. Now it's working. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and I'm going to try to bop around and get to everybody with the mic over the next few minutes.
Thank you, Janice. I'm curious how many clans there are in the Ho-Chunk family, and I guess you mentioned that you've got access to those two, both Thunder Clan and Bear Clan. I guess I'm interested in learning more about how Ho-Chunk share information internally and externally.
We have 12 clans. See, my mother was Snake Clan. Each one of them had a role in the village. And so we try to follow that at some of the social gatherings when we get together, especially at powwows. I'm trying to think of how I can explain. The roles that we have are carried on by men and women in each of the clans. And when we have gatherings, I guess if push came to shove and we had to organize ourselves, then the women would go back by their family, and they wouldn't be with the husband. They would go back to the clan that they're from, and in a gathering, and maybe help them fix some food for the family. And then it just depends on what clan you are, because the father and daughter relationship, that's a good one. And so the clan leaders always can signal people and just look, and they might just, all they can do is like maybe a non-verbal communication, and you show up. Or they would just kind of look like this and see who's there, and once that happens, you just come over. You don't need to be told. Maybe as a child you were told, but once people are adult or teenage, you know when you're supposed to be in a certain spot and you go there. And as far as teaching, we don't teach anybody about what our plans are, what our plans do. We just do it internally. And so every once in a while at a powwow, somebody will bring up to the microphone and ask Bear Clan people to come up. You're needed over by a certain camp or something like that. But other than that, no one really says what their clan roles are. We just know what they are. And then, or as a grandmother, you're from a different clan, but you know your grandson belongs to that other clan. You remind him, oh yeah, I remember you're such and such clan. So then he's got to go over by his group. Or do that role that he's supposed to do. So some of it is, what should I say? It's not written, it's not lectured, it's more of a teaching along the way as you're a child from the cradle board to now. I hope that helped a little bit.
Yes.
Oh, my mother's clan was Snake Clan, and one of the things they did in the old days is the villages, when everybody left, the whole village took off and they went to the next site to go do hunting or fishing or whatever. And the Snake Clan stayed behind and they cleaned up and made sure everybody took what they needed to take from the village. They made sure the fire was put out, everything was taken down and proper before they left. So that was my mother's clan, the Snake Clan, that took care of that. So that's one role that I can share because my mom was Snake Clan and she told me, so I'm telling you.
So all the children belong to the clan of their father?
Yes. In Ho-Chunk we're paternal, but other clans are, other tribes may be maternal. Like I have some friends that are Oneida and they're maternal. And so they follow the mother's line in the mother's clan.
Can you tell us something about the four lakes here in terms of what they're called? So like, what did the Ho-Chunk call Lake Monona? And you said it was hard to pronounce.
Yeah, Lake Monona is and that I'm not sure why they called it that, and I have to figure out why they called it this. It's Teepee Lake. And Ho-Chunks have wigwams, but I've noticed looking at old photographs, whenever people were out doing maple syrup and when they had to hurry and put the camp together, when they were gathering the syrup, they just popped things up and made it in the shape of the teepee, and then they had the kettle and the stuff going in there and heated things up, and it was the shape of a teepee. So all I can think is with all the maples around here and maple gathering, that maybe what the settlers saw was the teepee, and so that's why they called it that. But actually, the word is actually saying, we're translating it today as teepee, but what it means is the poles are gathering up here and they're like this. So that's what it's saying, but then we're translating it to teepee because that's what the teepee shape is.
So do the names Mendota, Monona, or Wabisa, are they like a English representation of the Ho-Chunk names?
No,
Or
they're not.
nothing? We're
When the surveyors, when the land was gonna be divided up and turned into acres and acres of land and going for sale, the surveyors are the ones that, well, if you know much about the Great Lakes history, people came from the Great Lakes and came on down that way. And so they came to St. Lawrence and all the other Great Lakes. And when they came that way, some of the people that were helping to guide the people and translate were more close to the Dakota people because they were over by Lake Superior, closer to Fond du Lac and some of the other reservations on that side. So and then the what do you call those? Schoolcraft and some of the people that were writing about the indigenous people just picked names from what they knew of from Lakota and Dakota language. And that's how we kind of got Mendota. I don't even know if Mendota is a word. Is it a word? But our word for Lake Mendota is Wangshiko. And so that means it has several translations because you can do the literal translation. Lake Mendota means place where the Indian lays down. And Homingara also means bed. So so it could be the bed of the lake, but there's stories that go with it about how Wangshiko got the name. And there was a person, actually, I heard from an elder that was actually named Wangshiko, and he actually lived near his village and camp was near Lake Mendota, or what should I say, Memorial Union, and the Tenny Park Trail, which became the Lakeshore Nature Reserve. Limnology, that building right in there, that's where he was, and his name was Wangshiko. And but I haven't seen anything else written down about that anywhere, but I heard that from an elder. And then Wangshiko has the story about the catfish that went along Yahara and ended up over in Lake Mendota or Wangshiko. And then for, let's see, Lake Wabisa, Lake of the Rushes, that one I can't even remember what that one is because it's kind of difficult to pronounce. And I can't think of the word for reeds right now off the top of my head, but Lake Higanza, where I live, is Lake Maple Grove Lake, but I don't remember how to pronounce that one either. That one's a little bit harder, and I should remember it because I live on that lake. But my mind goes more toward the Maple Grove, and then the lands and the gathering that's there. The maple trees are right there, and that there used to be in fact, if you do a boat launch, if you're on Lake Kiganza, if you look at the street name that's coming out from the boat launch, that's called Maple Grove Street. And so before settlement happened, if you walked northward from there, it's all maples, and that's where they gathered the maple syrup and the maple sugar in that region. And it also was a village, Mammoth Fish. And then some of the people that I mentioned, the woman that was the leader and chief, clan leader in that area. So when I'm walking, I'm focused more on my ancestors, and then the deer that comes always reminds me of my grandmother. So I'm kind of more focused on that rather than the name of the lake. So you're quite, because I'm going to go over there and memorize it and even speak to the lake and say the name. So thank you for that. Two more here.
The gentleman that asked about the plans, if you go down the Lake path, just before it crosses Willow Creek, you're directly north of the new Hockey Center, and there's a beautiful sculpture there that's just north of the Hockey Center, and it lists all the clients in that sculpture. Right next to it's also very rare for this area. I'm wondering, right now, it's very divided. We're a purple state that it's about 50-50 in that divide. In the Ho-Chunk Nation, there's also a divide, or people have risen above that and found a way to take that beach.
I'm not sure what you mean. All I can think of is if we look at the land, however, whatever relationship was there. If you look at the city, we forget our language and we forget some of the values that I just showed you on the screen. It's easy to just get caught up in whatever is happening right around you. So I'd say it's more of an individual thing. So like when I've lived here since around 1975. And most recently, maybe the last 8 years or so, or 7 years, I've been in my homelands a lot, and I'm hardly here. So today I feel like, wow, I'm back in Madison, back in Teejop. I think that the relationships that we have are based upon the values that we have at that moment. If you're carrying all of those on, like I'll see fellow college classmates when I go home, and so we just gravitate to each other without thinking anything. And then the same thing with the clans. Some of them forgot what clan they are, or maybe their parents never told them. They grew up in Chicago or LA, and they don't remember or don't know, or they're in Minneapolis. And so it's taking them a while to come back. But in terms of relationships, I think that the things that we have in common are far higher than things we don't have in common. So I think it keeps us together, especially if we know our family, we know where we came from. And you're reminding me of one thing that I noticed. I went to our tribe's general council meeting maybe about 15 or 20 years ago. And the ones that grew up away from home didn't know who they were related to. They might only know their brother and sister and then maybe their grandmother, and that's it. But the kinship is really important, in the lineage and what clan you belong to. And sometimes they would be really upset with somebody and talking badly about somebody, and then they're related to them and didn't know it. So we kind of joke about that when some people might make a comment about a speaker at the microphone that's making a statement at our tribe's general council meeting. But and then we have to kind of nudge them, hey, you're related to them. It's your grandmother.
So it's my understanding the villages were frequently near the lakes and near other waterways, but people would move over land as well. Were there any trails in and around Madison that people frequented that we might identify today as being near roadways or other landmarks in the area?
The ones I can think of are right here, Cottage Grove Road going out that way, when going east toward Milwaukee. That used to be a trail coming in. There was another trail coming from DeForest area that angled in by Sun Prairie, and they came that way. So when the relatives came back to Teejop area, that's the trail that they followed, and then they would come down to Monona. So a lot of the people that I know came that route to get here. And then the military is the one that went around the north side around Mendota. So that's why that's called Military Trail. So so that's why when we have our stories, there's fewer people talking about the north side because they know that's where the soldiers were. So they're going to be on this side where it's more protected. So most of them came down that way. And I even talked to a few people in Sun Prairie who said they remember the days when the Ho-Chunk women would come down from the north, what they call north, coming down to sell their baskets and beadwork and things like that. So, and the other mark I would say is if you didn't know where you were going, you used a lot of landmarks. And so there's the big tree that's by the water tower going more toward the agriculture drive in that region. There's a big oak tree there. That was a marker. Like if you're trying to get to Whitehorse and you're trying to get to the Ahuska Park, that region, I shouldn't say the park, but that region, if you're coming way back in the late 1800s and you're trying to get to Monona, you're coming that route and you use that oak tree as your marker. Oh, we're almost there. So that kind of thing, those types of trails. And then the other one is Monroe Street. That's a famous Ho-Chunk trail because you came from the Isthmus area and then you went down toward Mineral Point. So you had to go that route and follow the trails of Stagecoach as well. Stagecoach followed that. And then the trains came from the other side, the south side.
We are right at 5:01. If anyone's crunched for time, I have one more question for you, Janet, though. You have that wonderful list of the core values of Ho-Chunk Nation. Kind of bouncing off of your question about the divide, is there any one value that you would love to see modern Western culture in 2025 really focus in on? Or do you think it's just a collective list? If you have one, you have to have them all?
Hmm. I think I guess respect, voice up. If you respect someone, the rest of them follow easily. Compassion, sometimes when I have felt like I'm in my head and not my heart. So if you can imagine yourself, working more with your heart, a lot of these come easier. And then, the others, I think, humility, humility is really hard, I think. Especially when you're in a society that wants you to be the best and be on top and be the first and all that. That's really harder. But I think the respect would be the main thing, because if you have that, it's easy to do the next right thing. And you can be brave, you can have courage, you can be a soldier, you can get out there and protect everyone that you can. But I feel like if you don't respect yourself and you don't respect the person next to you, how are you gonna do all the rest of these? And so I guess that would be the best I could say, because I think compassion is one that I told my sister once, I had a really problem with someone and their behavior, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so then I told her, well, maybe I should have compassion for that person, for whatever reason the behavior is the way that it is now. If I were to have compassion and put myself in their shoes, that maybe I would understand, and I can let go of whatever that issue is, and see that person for being a person and look at these Ho-Chunk core values. So that's another one I think that is quite often overlooked, is compassion, because I know we all try to love one another. You can be generous with your Christmas gifts or birthday gifts, but I really feel like compassion is one that's overlooked. But respect, I think that means a lot, because that's the thing that I think my grandmother taught me the most, and my grandparents and my father too. Respect yourself, respect your neighbor, whatever they're doing, go in a grocery store, you go in the bank, whatever it is, be respectful, and you'll treat people how you want to be treated. So anyway, thank you so much for that question.
Thank you.
As always, I'm a little taller. As always, the recording will be online tomorrow. And up the wonderful stories or any of the insights shared this afternoon, if you want to share that with others, parents afterwards, they love tuning in. So thank you, Janice. This will be on the Clean Lakes Alliance YouTube channel tomorrow morning. If you don't have any questions, if something pops into your brain on the drive home, have something you're off when you're rewatching it, send an email, info@cleanlakesalliance.org. They will hook you up and find the answer either through Janice or one of their other wonderful connections. A reminder, we will be back Wednesday, January 14th. Morning? Monday to Wednesday. That's right. Thank you. We are moving to Wednesdays. Yes. So marking next year, we will see you on Wednesdays. Instead, we are going to move instead of being on Tuesdays. So don't show up on Tuesday. They might still let you in. I don't know, but we'll all be here on Wednesday. Everyone, please drive safe. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
I'll send you the name of the two lakes that I couldn't think of.
That was delightful. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Well, thank you.
See you next.